I fought in 2 wars, lost brothers, buried secrets, but nothing prepared me for the day a man in a vest knocked my wife to the ground over a damn garden gnome and smiled while he did it. You ever reach an age where you think you've earned peace, that after 4 decades of grind, sacrifice, deployments, and doing everything the right way, life might finally cut you some slack? That's where I was, retired Navy SEAL, 61 years old, and just about done with adrenaline. We'd bought this little patch of quiet land in a gated community tucked between the hills. My wife Linda and I. She spent her mornings tending the garden and humming hymns her mama taught her. I spent mine feeding the chickens and not thinking about the things I'd seen overseas. We called it our last good chapter, a place where we could grow old with quiet hands and full hearts. But peace, it turns out, ain't something you buy. It's something you gotta defend, especially when a group of self-righteous HOA zealots think they can turn your life into a playground for their power trips. And all it took to unleash hell was a garden gnome. They showed up just after 8 a.m., 3 of them, wearing matching khaki shirts and smug little vests, with compliance volunteer stitched on the chest, like that made them God's chosen. Meter maids. One held a clipboard. Another carried a little tape measure, like he was about to renovate the Vatican. The third one, big guy, twitchy hands, hard stare. He looked like someone who'd lost a fight with life and wanted to win one with someone else. Linda answered the door while I was fixing the latch on the chicken coop. She smiled, polite as always, because Linda grew up in Georgia and still believed the world ran better on manners. I watched from a distance as she nodded, pointed toward the flower bed, probably laughing about the gnome with the fishing rod that her daddy gave her. Before he passed, then the tall one said something. She crossed her arms. Then he shoved her. Not a little nudge. No, full body force. She stumbled back, hit the corner of the porch rail with a sickening crack, and went down like someone cut her strings. I don't remember moving, don't remember blinking, just remember the sound of her breath leaving her chest and my own heart, refusing to beat, but I didn't move. And that's the part I can't explain away. That's the part that keeps me awake at night more than any firefight I ever walked through in Kabul or Kandahar. My boots were nailed to the ground, my voice stuck in my throat. I wasn't staring at an HOA officer. I was staring at a memory of a night in Ramadi when I hesitated. Just long enough. Just enough to cost a man his leg, and me, my sleep. And as Linda lay there groaning on the porch, clutching her side, those 3 cowards walked away like they'd just corrected a mailbox. The one with the clipboard muttered something about unauthorized yard decor, and that residents should learn to comply. I didn't even respond, just stared at the blood on the wood and hated the man I suddenly wasn't anymore. We didn't go to the hospital. Linda didn't want to deal with questions or stares. She wrapped her own ribs and told me she was fine, but she wasn't, not even close. And it wasn't just her body that was bruised. It was the look she gave me every time I walked into the room. Not anger, not fear, just absence. Like I was there, but not. And in a way, I wasn't. That next morning, we found a fine in our mailbox, $500. Aggressive behavior toward compliance officers. Linda didn't even speak. She picked it up, read it, and then tore it in half with hands that were still trembling. I checked the porch camera, the one Linda used to watch her hummingbirds. The footage was gone, wiped clean, just static where the violence should have been. That's when I realized this wasn't just an accident. This was a setup. But I still wasn't sure who was behind the curtain, and I sure as hell didn't know how far they'd go. It wasn't until the knock came after dark that I knew I wasn't alone in this. Curtis Morgan. Crow. We served together in Fallujah. tall, lean, and with a face like a leather boot that had seen too many deserts. He didn't say much, just handed me a flash drive and said, "You're being hunted, Jack. Thought you should know." Crow now ran a private threat assessment outfit out of Tennessee. Still kept an eye on the old squad. Said he heard whispers. HOA run harassment. Ups. Veterans targeted. Quiet buyouts. People pushed off their land with lawsuits and intimidation. And that drive, it had drone footage. From above our house. Not just that day, but others. HOA enforcers, laughing, mocking Linda. One of them saying, "Push the old girl. The husband won't do squat. He's gone soft." I felt something split in my chest when I heard that. Not rage, not yet, just clarity. And the understanding that this wasn't about rules, or flowers, or gnomes. This was about power. And I was the next domino they wanted to tip. Linda moved into the guest room that night. Didn't yell, didn't cry, just walked past me and closed the door, and I couldn't blame her. Because what do you do when the man you married, who once cleared villages with nothing but a radio and a rifle, just stands there while you're thrown to the ground by some junior fascist with a clipboard? She didn't speak to me for 3 days, and when she did, it was just 6 words. "I don't feel safe with you." I wanted to scream, to explain, to tell her about the way my knees locked up and my brain went somewhere dusty and hot, but instead, I just nodded, because she was right. I hadn't made her feel safe, and that, to a man like me, cuts deeper than any knife. Crow and I went to the next HOA meeting, not to cause a scene, just to watch, to listen. Karen Prescott, the HOA president, stood at the podium with her perfect hair helmet and her voice like dry paper, talking about maintaining the integrity of the neighborhood aesthetic. When I raised my hand to speak, she smiled like a dentist and said, "Homeowners must submit questions in writing." Crow stood up, played the drone, clip on his phone, loud. The one where the enforcer said to shove the old woman. The room went silent. Karen turned pale. A few residents gasped, but no apologies came. Just more bureaucracy, more forms. That's when I knew we were dealing with something rotten. Not just corrupt, but calculated. And if we wanted change, it wouldn't come from a vote. I didn't go to war. I went to work. No blood. No fists. Not yet. Just groundwork. I helped the retired Marine 2 blocks over get security lights installed. I taught the widow on Cedar Street how to spot a tampered lock. I shared files with a few quiet neighbors who'd been too scared to speak up. And for the first time in weeks, I saw Linda watching me again. Not with forgiveness, but with curiosity. Like she was wondering if the man she fell in love with was clawing his way back. Then they crossed the line again. It was 1:14 a.m. I was awake, because I don't sleep much anymore, and heard the power trip. Then glass, then boots. 2 men on my porch. Same vests. Same arrogance. They smashed Linda's hummingbird feeder and spray-painted the gnome with the word vermin. I stepped outside with nothing but my voice and said, "Leave now." One reached for his belt, but this time I didn't freeze. I moved. Fast. Not lethal. Just clean. A joint lock here. A takedown there. By the time the deputies arrived, the 2 enforcers were face down on my gravel, groaning. I didn't threaten. I just handed over the flash drive. They knew, and for once, the badge didn't side with the clipboard. They released a statement the next morning. "We take all allegations seriously and are reviewing conduct." But behind the scenes, the HOA was scrambling. I'd flipped the script. Karen tried to file an injunction, claimed I was militarizing a residential community. But I had something stronger than tactics. I had evidence, and an old friend with a law degree, Linda's cousin Mia, civil rights lawyer from Atlanta. Mean as a rattlesnake and twice as smart. I hadn't spoken to her in years. Just sent her the files. She called back 10 minutes later and said, "We're going to ruin them." What followed was a lawsuit so clean, so surgical, it should have been taught in law school. 4 charges: unlawful trespass, impersonation of law enforcement, provocation under color of authority, and defamation. We attached drone clips, audio transcripts, Linda's medical report, and HOA internal emails. Leaked by a board member who clearly hated Karen more than I did. In court, Karen showed up with 3 lawyers and a pearl necklace, tight enough to choke on. The judge barely let them speak. He watched one clip, raised one eyebrow and said, "This ends now. Permanent injunction. HOA stripped of enforcement rights. Fines nullified. Restraining orders served." Karen resigned the next day. No apology, no farewell, just a moving truck and a for sale sign that got blown over by a breeze before sunset. The ranch. We took the tripwires down, rehung the flag, left the gnome exactly where he belonged. Linda stood beside me that night on the porch, said nothing, just watched the stars with me like we used to. And then, quietly, she said, "You didn't just protect me. You remembered how to protect yourself." I didn't answer, just reached for her hand, and this time, she didn't pull away.